Welcome, I bid you welcome to Life Inside the Electric Circus. Welcome to another exciting installment of the podcast that you're going to love. And this is called Talk 80s to Me, where we talk all things 80s. Movies, music, pop culture, fashions and trends, video games, toys, sports, news, all the stuff in between. The greatest decade of all time. That's not an opinion, that's a fact. Others may disagree. But, yeah, so we are back once again. This is episode 4, and I'm happy to be here. And once again, as I look around, I see that I am, for the 4th week in a row, the ugliest man in the room. Very happy about that. And so I'm here with a couple of awesome people. Once again, as always, to my left, the man, the myth, the legend, the computer guy, the sound guy, the mix guy, the camera guy, the nerd, the guy that makes it all happen week after week. Everybody say hello to Ben McMillan. Hi, Ben.
Hi, Ben.
Hi, Ben.
And to my right is another man, another myth, another legend in these parts, these here parts, if you will. This is one of my, oh my God, how long have we been friends now?
I'm going to say 35 years.
35? Yeah, it's something like that. Probably, I mean, no, back in the 80s. So ironic. So that makes sense that you're here. Ladies and gentlemen, bass player extraordinaire, awesome guy, family man, good man. His name is Timm Reeves. Tim, thank you for being here today.
My pleasure, buddy. My pleasure.
Awesome sauce. So we are... we're talking about something that I definitely wanted to bring you on board for this one because this is something I knew that you and I would be able to get some mileage out of talking about the topic tonight, which is early to mid 80s traditional metal.
That is me.
Yes, it is all you. And so I know a couple weeks ago we talked about the hair metal era at the later end of the decade. Had a couple of crazy lunatics up here, and we had fun with that, talking about the big hair and the spandex and all that stuff. But we were talking, Tim and I were talking not too long ago about this very topic, about this early to mid. And we thought it was interesting to not too many people bring up or really, the hair metal really gets a lot of the lion's share of attention. Because of all the flamboyance and all the big hits and the radio and MTV and everything else. But yes. Really late 70s, but early 80s to mid. And I'd say tonight we're going to be focusing on 80 to 84 primarily. As I always like to do before we do the podcast, I do my due diligence and some research and found out some pretty interesting things that I did not know, or maybe I knew and forgot about, thanks to the wonderful years of excess of the 80s, the partying and everything. So before we kick into that, I just wanted to say a couple of things. I mentioned, by the way, video games, and I can't, even though this isn't a topic, I can't go any further than, unless I talk about you and me and Justin. I'm trying to think. Brian Hayes.
Brian.
Right. A bunch of us in the 80s playing the greatest video game of all time that came out of that decade. Do you know what it is, Ben?
Frogger? I don't know.
Good game.
Not a bad game. Not a bad game.
It ain't Frogger. It's not Pac-Man. It's not Donkey Kong.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right. And that game is, ladies and gentlemen, Tecmo Bowl.
Oh, yeah.
Tecmo Bowl. We played that for hours. We had tournaments, and I remember the one rule that we always had was that nobody could be Bo Jackson's team. That was the Raiders, right. I believe, right?
Yeah. It wasn't fair.
It wasn't fair because Bo Jackson was literally God on that game. And you always picked the Bears, and I can't remember who the other guys picked.
Was Justin the 49ers, maybe?
Yeah, that sounds right. And I think Justin always picked the Vikings.
The
I think.
Vikings,
Yeah,
that's
I
it,
think
the
I always picked the Redskins.
You
and
were always the Redskins.
That's why
Yeah.
I lost all the time. But yeah, that was fun. So maybe sometime down the road we can talk about Tecmo Bowl.
Yeah, maybe.
But anyway, before we go on, I wanted to shout out our sponsor once again, a great company by the name of Apex Giant. They make some amazing products, including their famous minimalist wallet. You can check out everything that Apex Giant makes, creates, and distributes and sells. Products are made in the USA. They got some great warranties and everything. Check out www.apexgiant.com. Great company, great people that own it. Well, the actual owner, he's okay.
Good looking guy too.
I don't know about that. But anyway, so are we ready to begin?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right, cool. Now, the first thing I did was I wanted to get myself, incredibly enough, refamiliarized, if you will, with what the 80s or what the metal scene was really, the heavy metal scene was really about as the decade turned into 1980. I think it's easy to say that, generally speaking, the 70s really obviously was the birthright of a lot of the power chords, if you will, and the aggression. Black Sabbath formed in '68, of course, and then you had guys like Kiss, Aerosmith, Ted Nugent, Led Zeppelin, of course, right?
Sure.
So there were bands that were kind of creating that sound. In fact, I just read that Steppenwolf actually created the term heavy metal.
Wow.
And from the Born to Be Wild, heavy metal thunder is the actual lyric.
Right.
And that was the first time that was ever mentioned publicly. So it kind of took off.
Yeah.
But so as we turned into the 80s and things were weird because disco was huge. The early beginnings of glam rock were obviously, with Alice Cooper and with New York Dolls and Sweet.
Yeah,
Right.
Sweet.
So, but it was interesting to me that in 1980 we had a list of bands that either had their debut albums or they were putting out some good stuff. So I printed this off, and I just wanted to throw some names and albums at you in 1980.
Sure.
Because I thought this was really interesting. As soon as I can find it, I do this
Who
all the time.
Who was the band that did the original "Come On, Feel the Noise"? And
Slade.
Oh, Slade, yeah,
Right.
Great band.
Great band.
Great band.
So listen to this. So in 1980, these albums came out. AC/DC, Back in Black, huge, right? Except I'm a Rebel, Aerosmith Greatest Hits, Black Sabbath, Heaven and Hell with Dio,
Right.
Def Leppard, On Through the Night. I didn't realize that went all the way back to 1980.
Oh yeah, I was a child when we bought that album.
Yeah, Iron Maiden with Iron Maiden, self-titled, right? Judas Priest with British Steel, Kiss, not a good album. Unmasked. Here's Ben's favorite band, Motorhead, Ace of Spades.
Yeah.
You like Motorhead, right?
For this episode, sure. Yes.
Okay, cool. Ted Nugent, Scream Dream, Ozzy Osbourne, Blizzard of Oz, Scorpions with Animal Magnetism.
Great album.
Great album, right? Triumph with Progressions of Power. I hesitated putting them in this because they weren't really heavy metal, but they were toying with the idea of getting kind of heavier. Rick Emmett, great singer. And then Whitesnake actually put out 2 albums, Ready and Willing, and then Live in the Heart of the City.
Yep.
So, interesting year. And I also threw in here, because I know they happen to be your favorite band, but Rush released Permanent Waves in 1980. So, I don't really consider them, obviously, metal.
They're not my favorite band, but I love them.
Oh, I thought they were your
They're in
favorite.
my top 10 for sure.
Okay. All right. Well, I apologize.
I don't know if I have a favorite band. I mean, I guess Sabbath probably.
Yeah, I would say that.
All-time favorite.
Because you performed a lot of Sabbath songs in your career, right?
Yes.
Playing different bands over the years. You've been playing now for how long?
I did my first gig, like official gig, in 1983.
Wow. And you were how old?
53. Yeah. How old was I then?
Yes.
83. I was 14.
14 years old. And you were playing rock. and metal
Yeah.
at 14.
Yeah.
Awesome. So talking about 1980, I also pulled out a couple of interesting tidbits, newsy things about the metal scene in 1980. But 1980 was Bon Scott, lead singer of AC/DC, died at 33. I didn't realize he was 33
Yeah,
years
he
old.
was very young. Yeah.
After a binge of heavy drinking. Choked on his own vomit, I believe.
Yeah.
A few months later, Brian Johnson joins as the new lead singer. First question right off the bat. I know later we're going to do something called Pick Tim's Brain, but better singer for AC/DC, Bon Scott or Brian Johnson?
Are we asking, in my opinion?
In your opinion,
In my
of course.
opinion, Bon Scott's better.
Okay.
Yeah. I like the Bon stuff better.
I agree, by the
However,
way.
that album,
Back in Black.
phenomenal.
Right.
Phenomenal.
And what a legendary, I mean, it exploded.
Yeah.
And I'm sure everybody that was in high school when this album came out had it on cassette. Wait, would it have been out on 8-track then?
It may have. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you ever have any 8-tracks, Ben?
My mom had an 8-track player in her car. That's how cool we were.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yep.
So, yeah, I agree with you, by the way. I think Bon had a distinct style.
It was
Brian's
amazing.
just yelling to get off your lawn, get off his lawn
Right,
kind of thing. But Scott put some...
real good in the studio, though.
Yeah, right.
Especially those first couple albums. But, like, how do you do what he did live repeatedly, night after night, city? You know what I mean?
Brian Johnson, that voice.
Wow.
And he chain smoked and drank like a fish.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And it amazes me and actually astounds me.
It is amazing.
So, other notes. Iron Maiden guitarist Dennis Stratton, original band member, leaves and is replaced by Adrian Smith. I think that was a good decision
I
for the
think
band.
that was a good move.
Yes. I don't even have to ask you, who's better, Dennis Stratton or Adrian Smith? I think-
Adrian Smith is.
Would you classify Adrian as is he one of the best from the 80s?
He's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
You do know that, of course, they have 3 lead guitar players
Right.
now, Yannick Gears and Dave Murray. But
Right.
they played with Adrian Smith and Dave Murray for so long.
Right.
And I always said, as great as Dave Murray is, Adrian Smith's a little bit better.
Wow.
He just is.
Okay.
I saw him live several times, and Adrian's he's the better player.
And incredibly, they're both still in the band, and they're
Yes.
both touring like maniacs.
Yeah.
The band is touring like maniacs, and Janik is a good guitar player.
Oh,
too.
yeah, he's great.
Right.
Yeah, all 3 of them are great.
And I can't wait to talk a little bit more about Maiden here later because Bruce Dickinson is a lunatic, and I can't wait to talk about that. But anyway, another thing that happened. John Bonham, drummer for Led Zeppelin, dies at 32 in September of 1980 after a binge of heavy drinking again. Same thing. His death was similar to Bon Scott's, and this actually was the catalyst to cause Led Zeppelin to disband, and that's a shame.
It is.
And I believe at this time too that they had put out Coda. I think that was that a compilation album? And
I think that's a I really don't know for
Yeah.
sure, but I think it's a compilation album. Wasn't Physical Graffiti or something like that?
yeah, I can't remember.
In Through the Outdoor, maybe. One of
Yeah.
their- I don't know. I'm not up on my Zeppelin as
Right.
much as some of my buddies are, but
Yeah, that
Love
was
'em. I
that
mean-
was a shame. I do remember being like 12 years old and that being like in the news.
it was huge.
You know,
yeah,
it
I
was
was
a
in
big
6th
story.
grade at the cafeteria, and people were talking about it.
I
Like
was-
picture today, 6th graders sitting in a cafeteria talking about some rock drummer. That,
Yeah.
you know what I mean. It's
Yeah, it's
unheard
crazy.
of. Yeah,
It's
different
crazy.
time.
Mm-hmm. And then also the last thing in 1980, Peter Criss, drummer of Kiss, leaves the band and Eric Carr takes his place. Thought that was interesting. Peter Criss is, of course, one of the original members of Kiss. And it wouldn't be long after this where they decided to take it all off. Their makeup, of course.
Right.
Ben, get your mind out of the gutter. So I thought that was interesting.
That is interesting.
And then in 1981, too, we had some interesting,
Eric Carr is an upgrade, by the way.
Now, I agree with that, too. I should have asked you.
No disrespect to Peter Criss.
Right. And Eric, of course, tragically passed away. Was that in the 90s? I can't remember.
I think so.
Yeah,
I think so.
Brain
cancer.
Cancer, yeah. It sucked. In 81, I'm not going to read all of them, but we had some significant AC/DC putting out For Those About to Rock, We Salute You, Def Leppard, High and Dry, Sabbath, Mob Rules. right? Maiden puts out Killers, and still with Paul Di'Anno, right? And they also released a live EP made in Japan. Priest came out with Point of Entry. I love this one. Kix released their debut album, Kix, K-I-X. Just saw them live a few months ago. Insanely awesome.
Great band.
Great live band, too.
I like their cereal. That's pretty good stuff.
Yeah.
Kicks it, yes.
Yeah, but this
Moms like it.
Very
too.
original joke, I'm sure.
Yeah, and the band was better for you than the cereal. So, Crocus making their debut with an album called Hardware. I was never a huge Crocus fan.
No, they had a song here and a song there. I liked, but
Ballroom Blitz cover and Screaming in the Night.
Screaming in the Night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Mark Strachey, right, the permed, the weird looking guy.
With the perm, right?
Well, he looked like he was more likely to deliver you a pizza than he was. He looked weird. He looked like a guy that would be driving like an IROC. Am I saying that right? Wait, am I thinking that? Is that the right car? No.
Fiero.
Yeah, there we go. Motley Crue puts out their debut, Too Fast for Love.
Great album, by the way.
Phenomenal,
Yeah, it's
right?
raw. It's just
Angry
good. It's
punks.
Good. Yep.
Of course, if it was released today with Vince Neil, it would be called Too Fat for Love. Vince Neil currently weighs 300 pounds and lip syncs. Tragedy. But anyway, Nugent, Ozzy puts out Diary of a Madman. And I should have mentioned, too, that he put out the Blizzard of Oz in 80.
What did Nugent put out there? What?
Nugent in 80 had Scream Dream. In 81, he put the live album out, Intensities in 10 Cities.
Okay, yeah, we had it.
That was a great live album, too, by the way. I remember growing up being scared of Sweaty Teddy. He just like a crazy man.
We weren't allowed to listen to Double Live Gonzo because he dropped the F-bomb.
Oh, right.
Twice.
Right.
And he said some other things, too.
And he sang the P word.
Right.
As he proudly set up Wang Dang Sweet Poontang.
Yes.
Yeah. That's a love song, by the way. Rainbow put out Difficult to Cure. Rush, Moving Pictures. Right.
Amazing record.
And Exit Stage Left. Yeah. I didn't realize they put both of those out.
Wow.
How about this? Van Halen, Fair Warning.
So
Actually,
good.
I forgot to mention in 80, they put out Women and Children First.
Mm-hmm.
White Snake, Come and Get It. And Y and freaking T releases Earthshaker.
Oh.
Great album.
What
great
an
band.
album. What an album.
We might talk about them a little bit. The only thing of note that I had in 1981 was Iron Maiden's lead singer, Paul Di'Anno, leaves the band due to excessively heavy drinking.
I heard that he actually was fired.
Right.
Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
He probably was. And is replaced by some unknown guy, formerly of the band Samson.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Bruce Dickinson, who would, of course, become like the greatest icon for Iron Maiden.
Yeah.
And a legendary guy.
Yeah. People always list him as one of the top three, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Halford, Dio, and Dickinson.
Yeah, and we mentioned a couple weeks ago that we were talking about Dickinson, how great it is that he's a pilot. He pilots his own plane.
Yeah,
he's got a PhD. He's a master in fencing.
Yeah,
you know, it's just
he's lived a life.
It's incredible, and it debunks the theory that heavy metal guys are idiots. By the way,
right?
I mean, there are a lot of them, but that's beside the point. In 1982, just a few, Accept puts out Reckless and Wild, Black Sabbath with Live Evil, which I consider one of the greatest metal live albums.
It's so good.
It is. And,
really
it's produced very well, especially for its time. Maiden puts out Number of the Beast, the first album with Brucey. And Priest, the same year, puts out Screaming for Vengeance. I mean, 81's Kiss puts out Creatures of a Night, which I think is one of their better albums. Let's see here. Motorhead puts out Iron Fist. Night Ranger debuts with Dawn Patrol. Here's a name nobody ever talks about. Aldo Nova put out that
was a really good record.
Yeah, I agree.
Really good.
I agree. Nugent, Ozzy put out Speak of a Devil Live. Nugent, it says here he put out an album called Nugent.
We had it. It was fantastic.
Yeah?
Fantastic.
I'm not
he brought
remembering
back
that.
Derek St. Holmes on lead vocals. And,
Okay.
I mean, Carmine Appice was the drummer. I forget who played bass, but great album.
Awesome.
Great.
Rainbow, Straight Between the Eyes. Rush puts out Signals. Boy, they were cranking them out pretty.
Oh, yeah, one a year.
consecutively, One
Yep.
a year. My favorite thing, the band I never heard of, I had to bold this because there was a band that released an album in 1982. Ben, you ready for this? Called Split Beaver. And the album is titled When Hell Won't Have You.
I'd never heard of them.
I wish I'm on a mission now to get Split Beaver's album.
Yeah, we got to find that.
Because there's like no information about them online. I mean, but I got to find this album, man. Talus released Sink Your Teeth in that.
Oh, that's a great album too.
And that's
Billy Sheehan.
Billy Sheehan, right?
Yeah, great album.
Phenomenal bass player. TNT put out their debut. Twisted Sister makes their mark in America with Under the Blade. Vandenberg put out the self-titled. Give us a little bit about Vandenberg.
Vandenberg was the best band that nobody knew.
Right.
They were just amazing.
And of course, we're
Fantastic.
talking about Adrian Vandenberg. Who
Yes, they were
later
from
finds-
Holland, and I got to meet Adrian, which was a thrill of a lifetime for me at the time. I was a teenager, got my picture with him and stuff.
Nice.
It was pretty cool. But he was like, he couldn't believe he was with Whitesnake,
Right.
and I brought a illegally purchased Vandenberg record. It was supposed to be for promotional use only. And I said, "Will you sign this?" And he just was like dumbfounded that somebody knew Vandenberg.
Right.
And I was like, "What? Where's the other guys?" Everybody else talking about Whitesnake, and I'm talking about Vandenberg. And I said, "Where are the other?" He's like, "The drummer's like in the gutter now, and singer's still singing in clubs." And,
Wow.
yeah, it was pretty weird. It was weird.
Who was the singer for
Bert Heerink was his name. Still phenomenal.
Wow.
Yeah, he's like 70-some years old. Still
course,
sings
they
like
all
he's
are. These
real
days?
good.
It sucks. We should say real quick, he went on to bigger fame, being one of the two guitar players in Whitesnake.
Yes. Yeah.
And with them reaching astonishing success in 1987 with their self-titled album and Here I Go Again. And
Right, and didn't play
Still the night.
on the album.
Interesting
played,
story.
Played the solo on Here I Go Again, and that was it. And we knew this, and we saw the video, and I'm like, looks like Adrian Vandenberg.
Right.
And my brother was like, yeah, that's him. That's got to be him. Sure enough, they got the Tommy Aldridge, Vivian Campbell,
Vivian
Rudy
Campbell
Sarzo,
and Sarzo,
Adrian Vandenberg for the video.
which is a super group.
But
because at the
none of
time-
them were on the album.
Right.
So.
And it's interesting to me because when they replaced Vivian with Steve Vai for their follow-up album, and the album wasn't nearly as
Nah, that's a
good.
mistake. I mean, Vi's better than anybody, really. When you come down to it, but he didn't fit into that
No.
situation.
So then, who played on that 1987 album? I'm trying to remember. Who
I
played
can
guitar?
tell you, John Sykes.
John Sykes, who would go on to
Amazing.
form Blue Murder.
Yeah.
A great band,
Yeah,
of
it
course.
was
Sykes
Tony
is
Franklin.
amazing.
Yeah,
And
Neil Murray played bass.
Did he really?
Yeah, Ansley Dunbar was the drummer.
So that sounds like a pretty awesome band.
Pretty
too.
awesome band.
Right,
Yeah.
but I think Coverdale made the right move in putting together a super group.
Yeah,
for the
he knew what
tour.
he was doing for sure.
And sadly, Coverdale, who had one of the best voices, I think, back then in the 80s.
He
and
did. Yeah.
I saw him live not too long ago. He can't sing anymore.
No,
It's really,
he's old.
Yeah, it's awful.
A lot of people compare David Coverdale, say that he stole all his chops from Robert Plant.
Robert Plant of
Do you-
Zeppelin.
I don't.
Man, and I think it's
I've
funny.
never got that.
No, because I'm pretty sure they were the same age and they were singing at the same time. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, different. I mean, different, but I think it was easy for people to say that because he had long blonde hair and he could sing.
Yeah.
High notes, so it was easy for people, I guess, narrowly compare that. So Vandenberg, great album. And by the way, we're saying these things because if you want to, we're hoping you write this stuff down. If you're into metal and you want to check out some older stuff from the 80s, that is definitely worth checking out. We can't say enough good things about the Vandenberg. Now, they released two?
Three.
Three. Okay.
Yeah.
And are the other two as good as
The second one is Heading for a Storm. The third one was called Alibi,
Okay.
and I loved it,
Right.
but it wasn't quite as good as the first two.
Okay. Also,
This is something
ahead.
odd, too, that I wanted to bring up.
Sure.
What you're talking about here, to me, when you're talking about Vandenberg and White Snake.
Right.
These are really blues-driven rock and roll bands.
You're absolutely right.
But because of the sounds and the tones and the Marshall stacks, they were, they kind of got grouped into heavy
they were
metal.
lumped in as heavy
You know
metal.
what I mean?
You're right.
But they're
You're right.
really, if you think about it, like if you listen to Vandenberg and then listen to British Steel, for example,
Right.
from Judas Priest,
It's not the same
it's
thing.
not the same. No, it's not.
Well, and that's a great point, because I don't even think they considered themselves metal.
No,
right?
they didn't.
I think that if you would ask them, we're a bluesy rock band or whatever, so that's interesting.
It is.
And then at the end of 82, Van Halen, Diver Down, Whitesnake, Saints and Sinners, and Y&T puts out Black Tiger.
Another great one.
Another great
I
one.
got a question for you, though.
Yeah.
What you guys were just talking about, they're lumped into that group. Was that something that happened back then, or they lumped into that group now, looking back? Like
No,
back then, how were they perceived?
See, that's interesting. Because
Back then, they were considered.
Yeah.
Everything was metal.
Gotcha.
Every hard rock, like the line was drawn at like Foreigner, Journey. Those weren't considered heavy metal.
AOR. They were considered AOR rock,
Right.
album
Right.
oriented radio rock.
Right.
Whereas
REO.
REO
They weren't
Speedwagon,
considered that.
Styx.
But like these bands, they've
Yeah.
grouped in with heavy metal, even though there were so many other bands that were way heavier.
Mm-hmm.
And then, which we'll get into later probably, there was some really heavy bands.
And we are going to
And
talk
like
about
people
that.
would like it become a thing where people would tell you, "Oh, that ain't heavy. This is heavy."
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
bring like a Slayer album out, and it's like,
Oh, my God.
okay, now that's heavy.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, he's absolutely right. And the thing that I think one of the things that happened was right in the early 80s, around this time, we're talking about 80, 81, 82, was they came out with this explosion of the new wave of British heavy metal.
Right.
So the phrase and the term heavy metal, I remember vividly, was getting tossed out there all the time. And when like newspapers would review the new Judas Priest album, first of all, they always hated them.
Yeah.
Right. They never got good reviews by like mainstream.
No.
They were always, if you had long hair and you plugged your guitar in and you looked like a hoodlum or an outcast, you were pretty much lumped into the heavy metal.
Yeah. The whole devil worshippers.
Yeah. And here's the thing too. I remember even people talking about Van Halen being lumped in that heavy metal.
Strange.
Which is silly.
Yeah, it is.
Because they were
Really
party
is.
rock. They were just a little heavier glam rock, I think. But anyway, so now in 1982, this is where we're at. I just want to throw some notes at you. A few here.
Mm-hmm.
Maiden's first album with Bruce, Number of the Beast, reaches #1 in the UK music charts. Motorhead's guitarist Fast Eddie Clarke leaves the band and is replaced by ex-Thin Lizzy guitarist Brian Robertson.
Started his own band.
Yes,
Fastway.
Yes, he
Okay.
did. And their
figured-
first
knew you
album
knew
was
that.
good. Was fun.
Yeah. David Wayne,
Yeah.
lead singer.
Judas Priest single, You Got Another Thing Coming, is released in 82, and it will go on to become the band's best-selling single
Not
of all
surprised.
time.
Not
Right.
surprised.
And I'm sick of hearing it today.
Yeah.
And I think they are, too, I'm
I'm
sure.
sure they are.
This is sad. Ozzy Osbourne's incredible guitarist Randy Rhoads dies in an airplane accident
What
on
year
March
was that? 81.
82. March 19th in 1982.
Wow.
I remember that being in the news, too.
Yeah.
Boy, we had a lot of deaths in the metal community, if you think about it, the first couple of years of the
That
80s.
one was that one hit harder than most.
Yeah.
I mean, because of his age and how unbelievably unique and fantastic he played, and you can't help but wonder, where would he have went? You know what I mean?
I remember-
Where would he be right now?
I remember a lot of people talking, like when Ozzy got fired from Black Sabbath, and people were like, "Oh my God, what's he going to do now?
Right.
He's leaving the greatest."
I was mad
Yeah, he
till I bought Heaven and Hell.
all right. So we won as metal fans
We did,
because not
'cause-
only did Dio take over, win phenomenal albums,
We ended up
different-
with two great
different
bands.
sound,
Yeah.
right? I mean, different style.
Yep.
But then Ozzy goes, I got this Randy Rhoads guy.
Yeah.
I think maybe we can make some music together. And
Then he
was-
just goes out and grabs like the greatest rhythm section with Lee Kerslake on drums, Bob Daisley on bass.
Bob Daisley.
Just two masters, and this young kid, and they're just, it's phenomenal.
For the mainstream audience, Bob Daisley is one of the most criminally underrated bass players of all time.
Yeah.
Musician, never mind just bass player. I mean, musician. So, my God, I could talk to you about this stuff all day. Anyway, Some other news. Iron Maiden's drummer, Clive Burr, is fired from the band because of personal and tour schedule issues.
Yeah.
And Nico McBrain, who was drumming for the band Trust, who I do not remember at all, is hired to replace him. Pretty interesting stuff.
That's an interesting one, and that's probably one of the few that, and I don't know what the personal problems were, so I can't really speak for that, but I do, in my heart, think that Clive Burr was a little bit better.
There we go.
I just liked him better.
Yeah.
I thought he was a better drummer.
Listen, I value your opinion because you've been in this music industry for a long time. Let's keep going here. Ace Frehley and lead guitarist of Kiss leaves the band in '82. He's replaced by Vinnie Vincent.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I was.
Are you a fan of Vinnie Vincent?
I'll be honest with you. I can't answer because I don't know him enough to even comment.
Yeah, he didn't stick around very long.
I was so done with Kiss by that time of my life. I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. Kiss is the reason I play, probably.
Oh.
I used to wish that I was Gene Simmons.
You can't deny
I don't wish that
how-
anymore, by the way.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
You can't deny their influence, whether you like them or not, whether you think their lyrics.
I
are
mean, I
cheesy
was
or
rocking to Kiss when I was in third grade. So
Same here. Absolutely.
pretty cool.
So,
But by the time Peter and Ace left, Unmasked was the last album I bought, and it was
yeah,
had a song here and a song there that I liked, but I just lost interest in them.
well, I like Creatures of a Night, and that is one that Vinnie Vincent debuted with them because that song "I Love It Loud" and "War Machine." There are a couple of pretty heavy, chuggers on that one. So it was nice because they went from "I Was Made for Loving You" to getting back into the little bit more basic, heavier stuff. So I like the direction they were going. And Lick It Up and Animalize, brainless but fun. That was when they took off the makeup, but we'll get to that. Ben, you like Kiss at all?
I was pretty young.
Yeah.
I'm like 5 years younger than you guys, so I missed out on that Kiss thing.
There's eras of bands that have been around for a long time, and it seems like there's always 2, 3, 4 albums in a row that I love, and then I kind of before and after
Move on.
But Kiss is one of those. Dressed to Kill and Hotter Than Hell, just to me they're two best.
Yeah.
I just think
I
they're
remember.
great.
I'll never
Well,
forget.
the first one's good too.
Oh, yeah.
Really good.
I'll never forget. My brother bought the album for Dressed to Kill, and I thought it was the coolest cover ever because they were all wearing suits with their makeup on. It was really, really badass,
Very
man.
cool.
Couple more things in 1982. Former Deep Purple vocalist Ian Gillan replaces Ronnie James Dio in Black Sabbath.
Yes.
So Dio didn't stick around too long. But he had bigger plans.
Right.
But Ian Gillan, of course, Born Again, correct?
Yeah.
And I thought that was great. I mean, I thought that was a good
great.
Sabbath album. Again, different from the others.
Very different, but great.
So you have to give Tony Iommi some credit, Geezer, Bill Ward some credit for changing their sound with every time they got a new singer. So, and last but not least, and this is going to be interesting in a little bit, the band Metallica leaves L.A. at a very young age. They're in their teens. They relocate to the San Francisco Bay Area, and they're about to unleash their onslaught of thrash to an unsuspecting world. Okay, anyway, real quick. Now, we only got 2 more years. 1983, I wanted to share with you. Let me see here. Armored Saint came out with March of the Saint.
Never was a fan.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't care
I
for
just
them.
saw them last year open up for W.A.S.P. And they were a band that I never thought about, like back in the day.
I thought back then they tried too hard.
Yeah.
They tried to be Priest.
And
That's just my opinion.
there wasn't anything distinctive about their sound. John Bush, okay singer. Nothing about that band stood out.
Right.
And they sang a lot of, most of their lyrics, even back then, were like your standard, we're in a battle of heavy metal and we're going to, like Man-O-War kind of stuff, right? Where they're singing, about sword fights and stuff like that. But anyway, Autograph, Sign In Please, with their huge hit, Turn Up the Radio.
Great guitar player. That was what they offered us.
Yeah. And Steve Plunkett was the weirdo singer in that in that band. But Black and Blue debuts in 1980. And
Love the album. Loved it.
oh wait, I'm sorry. You know what? I skipped 84.
That probably surprises you, but I like the album.
Really?
Black and Blue, yeah.
Because they were very ahead of their time for the hair
They
band.
were.
You know, I mean, they were very big into the teased hair and everything else
Yep.
back.
Yep.
But I want to apologize, by the way. I skipped ahead. This is 1984 we're looking at. Let me go back to 83. I screwed up.
Didn't we finish 83?
No, we did.
Okay.
We finished 82 because that was Split Beaver.
Oh, yeah.
And I want to keep saying that because I'm hoping somebody out there will let me know what's up with Split Beaver. All right, 83, Balls to the Wall, Accept. Right?
There's not a bad track on it. It's one of the best albums ever.
And it's an anthem. You ever hear that song,
amazing.
Balls to the Wall, man?
Nope.
Man.
Great song. AC/DC putting out an average album called Flick of the Switch.
Yeah.
Alcatraz debuts with No Parole from Rock and Roll.
Love it. Love it.
Great. Graham Bonnet.
Graham
right?
Bonnet. Ingve, I think, was the guitar player. on
Graham
the first-
Bonnet, singer, looked like a shoe salesman.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Had a set of pipes on it.
Oh,
though, man.
huge voice.
Amazing. And that was Ingve.
Yeah.
Right. Let me
Since
see.
you've been gone from Rainbow,
Yeah.
you know, the big hit.
Yes, that's
Graham Bonnet.
Black Sabbath puts out Born Again, as we already talked about. Leopard puts out Pyromania. And ladies and gentlemen, one of the biggest albums of 1983. You can't deny it as far as sales, singles,
I'm going to say their best album.
ever, like
Yeah.
overall. They
Not
put
my
out,
personal favorite album,
Right.
but their best.
okay. What is your personal favorite?
High and Dry.
High and Dry is a great album. But, I mean, think
But
about
it's still a great album.
Right.
I like it a lot. Yeah.
and they had, what, 4 singles? Photograph, Full In, Rock of Ages.
I think there was. Didn't they redo the one off of High and Dry?
Oh,
The slow one.
Too Late
Bringing
for
on the
Love.
Heartbreak.
Oh, Bringing on the Heartbreak, yeah. Okay.
Great album.
I agree. Dio puts out Holy Diver.
Truly,
I mean, what can you say?
truly one of my favorite albums of all time.
I agree.
Yeah.
And who played, who is there?
That was Vinny
Viv.
Appice on drums,
And it's
Viv
Viv, right?
Campbell,
Yeah.
Jimmy Bain on
Yeah,
bass.
you're right. Dawkins releases Breaking the Chains.
Another one that I like a lot.
Guitar God George Lynch.
People make fun of Dawkins a lot for some reason. I think that those first couple albums were phenomenal.
Yeah, really,
phenomenal.
Really good stuff. Fastway, as you said, puts out their debut. Say What You Will.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yep.
Fun tune. I love this. Grim Reaper puts out See You in Hell. Now, I have a guilty pleasure spot in my heart for Grim Reaper, especially because the lead singer was a very, very fat guy, ugly as sin. And he passed away not too long ago.
Did he die?
Yeah. And
Well, Udo was a fat little ugly guy
he was,
from
dude,
Accept. Udo
he looked like a
Dirkschneider.
serial killer.
Yes, he did.
And very
But he-
short and very
But
scary.
he made that band something special.
Yeah, he did.
You know what I mean?
When he
I
left-
can't describe it.
It's they tried to go on without him, and it fizzled out like a fart in church. Helix, No Rest for the Wicked. I have another guilty pleasure soft spot in my heart for Helix.
Yeah, I like it.
It's not great, but it's fun.
It's good.
It's
good.
like Doritos, you know. It's like, you know, you're not getting anything good for you, but what the hell? Let's eat some Doritos. Maiden puts out Peace of Mind. Now think about this. They go from
Number of the Beast.
Beast to Peace of Mind. That's got to be like one of the best examples of 2 consecutive albums being amazing.
I had them in the back of my head when
Yeah.
I said that. I really did.
And
Because
I
those two, I mean, it's
I
just
think they released Power Slave after that,
Yes.
did they not?
Yes.
So that's a pretty good trio.
3 dandies.
And then they put out Live After Death, which is
Right.
considered by many metal purists to be one of the best live albums of all time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know. Kiss, Lick It Up. First time without the makeup. Kicks puts out Cool Kids. Crocus does have some moderate success with Headhunter. That's the one with Screaming in the Night.
Mm-hmm.
Man of War puts out Into Glory Ride. Metallica, Kill 'Em All, their debut. Motley Crue, Shout at the Devil. Or today, if it came out with Vince, it would be Shout at the Deviled Eggs.
He tells the same jokes every episode.
Yeah, you know, it is.
Vince jokes never get old, Ben.
And in the next album, Theater Pain, he'll be singing Ham, Sweet Ham. Let's see here. Night Ranger puts out Midnight Madness, was a big hit. Ozzy, Bark at the Moon. Not Moon, Moan. Great album. Jakey Lee, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Phenomenal player.
absolutely. This is great. Pantera, in 1983 puts out their debut album called Metal Magic. And they were a hair band when they first started.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and they had hair. Diamond Darrell was his name. He later became a dime bag.
Yeah.
But yeah, they started out as a hair band. Very party metal. Queensryche puts out their debut EP.
Oh,
Queen of the Reich.
that was good.
Lady Wore Black.
Yeah.
Right? Phenomenal.
Saw him in a bar in McKees Rocks. Like
With Tate?
smashed up against the stage.
With Tate?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It was the warning before.
Okay.
The warning was already released, and they played in what was the name of that bar in McKees Rocks?
I honestly can't think of it.
Oh man, I can't believe I can't think of it either. But I saw them there, and it was phenomenal. We were if you're playing at home, try to count how many times I've said the word phenomenal. But the reason is the reason is because I absolutely love what he's talking about right here. Yeah, this is my favorite.
Dude, you've been smiling since we started.
I love all this.
I know.
Stuff. I really do.
I figured you and I, this would be great for us. So, Quiet Riot puts out Metal Health.
Yes. Great album.
Opened the floodgates for that commercial crunchy metal, you know, with the power riff. Huge. Come On Feel the Noise, of course, stays in the brain, and it's still played today at sporting events.
Right.
And it's funny because their biggest hit was not even their song, as you mentioned, it's a cover of Slade. Right. Talus puts out their live album. Here we go. Ready? Rat's EP, the debut of Rat, which had Tawny Katane on the cover of their EP with rats gnawing at her nylon stockings.
That was a very good EP.
Yeah, very raw.
Yeah.
Very rough.
Loved
That
it.
was the whole point. Savatage makes their debut. Florida band called Savatage. I'm going to keep saying it, Savatage. You guys got to check it out. If you've never heard of them, or if you haven't listened to them for a long time, go back and listen to Savatage. They came out with their debut, Sirens. Comes out in 1983. Phenomenal. Now you got me saying it. Thanks. We'll talk about Savatage here in a little bit. Triumph, Never Surrender. Twisted Sister, You Can't Stop Rock and Roll. Vandenberg, Heading for a Storm. And Y&T, in my opinion, before they sell out, they put out Mean Streak.
Yes.
But the wheels start falling off after this with In Rock We Trust.
Yes.
And then it goes down with Summertime
now
Girls.
that is record companies.
Yeah, that's it.
That
right
was
there.
record companies
Absolutely.
saying, look, if we're going to keep you on this label, you need to produce us a hit. That's what happened.
Y&T did not have any hits,
Right.
and so that reeked of desperation, especially Summertime Girls. That made me crazy,
Right.
Especially their cheesy video.
However, I looked up Dave Menichetti, the leader of Y&T, lead
Right.
guitar, lead vocals, formed a band, only original member still alive. Right. I just read that he's worth $10 million, so he's done okay.
He's doing all right.
Yeah, I'll take $10 million.
Yeah, I would be happy with it. Ben, can you give us $10 million right now?
No,
All right. Appreciate your honesty.
but that would be phenomenal.
That would be. 1983, a couple of tidbits of news here. Yngwie Malmsteen starts performing in the band Steeler. Also in that band was vocalist Ron Keel.
Wow.
I love that guy. And former W.A.S.P. bassist Rick Fox. The band only released one album. In April, Metallica fires lead guitarist Dave Mustaine for substance abuse issues, replacing him with Exodus guitarist Kirk Hammett. Mustaine, as we all know,
Great move.
Yeah, right. As we all know,
as much as I love Megadeth, that was a great move right there.
Mustaine eventually forms the band Megadeth. So far, we're having a lot of lineup changes of different bands pertaining because of drugs and alcohol.
Yes.
Are we starting to see a pattern here? You think metal?
We start seeing some hypocrisy there
I'm starting
too.
to wonder
I mean,
about
there's
that.
a lot of hypocrites.
Yes. Kiss in 1983 ends the use of makeup in their act. Come On, Feel the Noise, Quiet Riot is number 5 on November 19th. Peaks at number 5 on the Billboard Hot 100. Metallica and Slayer both released their debut albums. Metallica, Kill 'Em All, and Slayer, Show No Mercy. You want to talk about a band that scared me when they first came out, man. Ooh, Slayer. They were a satanic thrash band that had pentagrams and upside-down crosses, and all their songs were about killing God and praising Satan.
And your dad was a pastor.
And my dad was a pastor. I was never a Slayer fan.
Me neither.
And it's not because I don't like thrash. I just didn't get the gimmick, man.
Me neither.
I mean, metal
that didn't interest me at the time, and I don't really like thrash.
Right. Metal in '83 was already, because of its mainstream success, was already starting to get a lot of flack and feedback from concerned parent groups and religious groups.
Tipper
Gore with the PMRC, and it was silly, but then you had bands like Slayer coming out, and their stage act at the time consisted of sacrificing goats and all this, getting the crowd to sing along, Hail Praise Satan.
Yeah,
and
weird.
It was not cool. And then the last thing about '83 was after a song "Runaway" became a huge hit on New York radio stations. John Bon Jovi forms the band Bon Jovi, for better or for worse. Not a big fan around these parts of Bon Jovi.
How dare us consider Bon Jovi to be a heavy
even
metal?
Brought that up.
You know what I mean? Like, are they heavy metal at all?
But Richie Sambora, do you give him credit as a guitar player?
There I go again. Phenomenal player.
We need to have a ding.
That's hilarious. He is. He's great.
Right.
There's
talent in the band. They just chose to really be poofy, froofy.
Yeah.
I don't even know what froofy. I don't even know what that means. You know what that means, Ben? No,
but it worked. No. They made a killing.
Yeah. Oh, and I got to be honest. Runaway, I do like.
I like a bunch of their songs. I mean, I'm not saying I don't like Bon Jovi.
Right. Well, I can say I don't like them.
I mean, I've never owned a Bon Jovi album, though. Right? So I think that probably would tell us.
And I'm proud to say that I've never seen them live. Have you?
Yes.
Huh?
Twice. They opened for Rat.
Okay.
7,800 degrees Fahrenheit. I was front row for that because it was festival seating in Wheeling. I just ran in, and that's where I was. Huh. They were better than Rat that day. Wow. Then Slippery When Wet came out, and it became huge. Right. And I was, I had a girlfriend at the time that loved them, and she insisted that I go, so I went. They were playing 2 nights in a row.
Every chick back then loved Bon Jovi.
Yes, yeah, I couldn't say no, and it wasn't a bad concert at all.
Okay. I'm just not a fan.
No.
1984, we're going to just run through these. Bon Jovi, of course, Deep Purple puts out Perfect Strangers.
Great
album.
Stuff.
Yeah, good stuff. Dio, of course, follows up Holy Diver with The Last in Line. Mm-hmm. Dokken puts out Tooth and Nail. Let's see any other. Sammy Hagar puts out VOA with that sickening I Can't Drive 55 that became huge and blew up. Not a fan. Maiden puts out Power Slave. Judas Priest, Defenders of the Faith. It seems like every time Maiden put out a good album, the same year Priest did too.
Yeah. Defenders was probably the best to date. Probably the best concert I ever saw.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Crocus comes out with the Blitz, with the Ballroom Blitz cover. That was sweet, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Lizzie Borden, who I love, a guilty pleasure, Spot My Heart Again. They came out with their EP, Give 'Em the Axe. Yngwie puts out Rising Force. Metal Church debut, self-titled debut, Beyond the Black. They did a cover of Highway Star, the song Metal Church itself.
Chuck Robinson introduced me to Metal Church.
Oh, my God.
And it was that album right there.
Yeah?
And I couldn't get enough of it.
Shout out to Chuck Robinson.
Now that...
I'm hoping to get, by the way, to get up there as a guest.
That was heavier than everything else.
Yeah. I mean, people were lumping Metal Church and
without
Whitesnake.
being trash.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, you talk about power metal.
Yeah.
I think that's the definition.
Savatage was really heavy,
metal.
too. They're really heavy.
Traditional metal. Halloween, of course, too.
Yep.
But, so Metal Church. And here's the crazy thing, man. So this is their 40th anniversary. And 2 of their lead singers have died. David Wayne passed away in 2000s of gangrene. And that's me.
Please silence your phones.
It's my son. Don't worry about it. I just hope he's okay. But anyway. And then recently, Mike Howe, who sang in a couple albums with them in the late 80s, early 90s, Blessing in Disguise, Hanging in the Balance, a couple other ones, left the band, and then literally in 2017 rejoined the band, and they were rejuvenated with him back as vocals as lead singer. Put out some great stuff, and committed suicide last year. Oh, come on. I know it's my kid. Sorry, guys. And committed suicide. And so they just picked up a new guy by the name of Mark Lopes, who I had never heard of him before, but they just released their first single off their new album, which comes out later, I think in May. And the album is called Congregation of Annihilation. And their first single is called Pick a God and Pray. And this new lead singer is amazing. And incredibly, there's one original member left, and it's Kurt Vanderhoof.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah, I remember him.
Yeah. And he was on the original album way back in 1980. What are we saying? 4, 3?
I think
19, yeah.
3 or maybe
4. Yeah, we're on the last year of this. So Metal Church, check them out. I don't know. Spotify is amazing because you can literally go through these bands' entire discography, and they put them in chronological order, and they give you all the information about the bands and everything. I really can't recommend that enough. It's pretty amazing. But Metal Church is definitely a band that you should be checking out. Let's see what else we got here. Motorhead, Overkill makes their debut from New Jersey. I love Overkill. Queensryche puts out The Warning.
Oh,
right?
So good.
First single, Take Hold of the Flame. And I mean, we were all hooked. That was just amazing. Yeah. Quiet Riot put out their follow-up album, which isn't nearly as good as the original, Condition Critical. Rat releases Out of the Cellar, their full debut, which became a huge MTV
That was
hit.
their big one, yeah.
Oh, my God. Round and Round. Back for More, Wanted Man. I know I'm forgetting something, but huge. Slayer debuts with Haunting the Chapel. Scorpions, I should mention this. Love It First Sting.
Yeah.
Puts out, so this is the beginning of the end
I
for
know
the band.
that you don't love at First Sting. Is that
I'm
correct?
not a fan.
Okay.
I'm not a fan. It's the beginning of the end for me as far as Scorpions. Their best albums were way behind them at this point, and now they're just looking to make money.
Hits.
Right?
Yeah,
hits. And to be fair, Love It First Sting had a crap ton of hits.
It did. It did.
Rock Like a Hurricane, Big City
It
Nights.
also had a crap ton of really good stuff that could have been on Blackout.
Okay.
But you have to... It's not the stuff that's played on a radio.
You have to sift through the hits.
And I saw them live that tour, and another, like Defenders of the Faith, another one of the best concerts I've ever
Really?
seen. Oh, they were just so
listen,
good.
I don't have any doubt that they were great live because they put out great albums in the late 70s and
I
leading
watched
up to the early 80s.
I think the US Festival recently was on
83.
a replay, and it was in 83.
Yeah.
And there were so many huge bands, and Scorpions just owned.
Of course.
Owned it.
Of course.
Owned the place.
And by the way, that US Festival, Motley Crue made their debut, and they were terrible live. They're just all over the place. It was really hilarious.
I'm not surprised.
But Vince Neil is thin as a rail in that. So if you for you younger kids out there who don't know Vince other than the 500-pound King Kong guy that he is now, that warbles terrible lyrics and breaths out every fourth word live, you should go back and check out their earlier stuff where he was actually skinny and he actually could sing a little bit. Spinal Tap releases their soundtrack for This Is Spinal Tap.
So fun.
Great movie.
Mm-hmm.
And actually pretty fun soundtrack. I mean, they had some good songs. Hellhole. What's the one about Stonehenge?
Stonehenge,
right? Yeah. Stryper debuts with the Yellow and Black Attack.
Mm-hmm.
Christian band. Now, look, I like them. Soft spot in my heart. I just saw them live last year at a place called Jurgles. Phenomenal live. Ding, hit that word
They
again.
were really good.
Yeah, they sounded
They were.
I mean,
I didn't love them, but, I mean, talented.
and you can't deny Michael Sweet's voice. Yeah, Michael Sweet is the singer.
And the guy
big
that
voice.
played lead.
Yeah,
Really,
Oz Fox.
really good. Oz Fox. That's it.
And his brother Robert Sweet was a drummer. They were great musically. They got it carried away with the
And they
Bumblebee.
were pretty. They were very pretty.
They got carried away. They would. I mean, have you ever heard of Stryper or seen them back in the day? You remember seeing them?
Oh, I never saw him, but my mom actually was big into Christian rock and
Christian,
Christian music, and we had that playing all the time. Absolutely.
It was the metal that you were allowed to listen to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That was it.
Well, my
pretty
dad,
much.
he brings up my dad being a pastor. He really didn't give a crap about my music as much. My mom was like absolutely livid. Of course, in her defense, I did have the W.A.S.P. F like a beast poster on my wall. That's a true story.
I never had an issue with either one of my parents about that. I mean, they didn't love it, but they kind of just was like,
yeah, let them go.
Yeah.
But my mom was like, you can't have this satanic stuff in a house of, house of God, blah, blah, blah. So I remember being all happy when I brought home the cassette of the first Striper album. Right. And she was like, quit listening to that devil music. I'm like,
read up on it.
I concur. So they were fun. Greatest story ever. Super, super quick. I took a girlfriend to see Striper live at the Syria Mosque. And she was not having a good time. It was too loud. She didn't like the music. Now, this is back when Striper was throwing Bibles out into the crowd. My girlfriend was standing up on a chair so we could see because everybody was standing up. She's complaining to me the whole time. I want to go. This sucks, but it's too loud. It's hurting my ears. Just complaining. And she turned, and I'm looking right at her. She turns and looks towards the stage, and a Bible hits her right between the eyes. Bang! I mean, perfect shot. It was one of those little, like, pocket Bibles, And, I mean, it almost knocked her off her chair. And I said, thank you, God. That was hands down one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life. That was great. Talk about being smacked with the word of God.
That's terrific.
It was a great story. Last couple ones here. Try and put up under 7. A very good band called Trouble. I don't know if you like them, if you're familiar with them.
Am I familiar with them?
Trouble was a Christian band as well. Well, they weren't.
Trouble?
Yeah.
Not real. Doom. They were
doom metal, but they were.
They might have had some positive lyrics.
Yeah, they were positive lyrics. Their album was called Psalm 9. And I think we have a mutual friend who you just mentioned, Chuck Robinson, who's got a history with that band.
Yes, I have a little bit of a history with them myself.
Okay, I didn't know that.
You didn't know that?
No,
I thought you knew. I thought you were just
played
kidding.
with them.
Well, I did an album with their singer, Eric Wagner.
Okay,
yeah,
now he
my
passed
brother,
away. Correct?
He did.
Yeah, I heard about that. Yeah, it was a tragedy. Phenomenal singer.
It's called Lid. You can get it on Amazon or any other outlet.
Okay,
like iTunes.
I did not know you played with Eric Wagner.
Yeah, I play bass on it. My brother plays drums. Danny Cavanaugh from an English metal band called Anathema is the guitar player, and Eric played or sang.
So when did you do this album? Was it 80s?
1997.
97.
Yeah, we were trying to bring back the glory of the 80s, I think.
Nice.
It's a good album, though.
And the album is called what?
Lid is the name of the group,
right?
And the album's titled In the Mushroom.
Okay.
Real trippy.
And people can buy it?
You can get it on Amazon or you can get it on iTunes, I think.
Now, real quick sidebar. This is before Mushroom Cult?
Oh, yeah. No.
This is after Mushroom Cult. Okay. Yeah. Tim was in a great band with his brother and Jeff Grable, great band called Mushroom Cult.
It's just a coincidence that I had two things. Mushroom. Yeah, mushrooms,
Okay, last couple albums. Twisted Sister puts out Stay Hungry. Like them or hate them, they were huge. They were everywhere.
I love D. Snyder.
Love D. Snyder.
Love him.
Put out the We're Not Gonna Take It and I Want to Rock. They became anthems. You still hear them in sporting, events and stadiums and arenas and stuff. Whitesnake puts out Slide It In.
Oh.
Right? In 1983.
Good record.
Y&T, The Downfall Begins for this band. In Rock We Trust, as we talked about, featuring their hit Summertime Girls, which is
no, it wasn't on that one.
It wasn't?
No, Don't Stop Running was the hit off of that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, what am I thinking
Lipstick and Leather.
Ooh, yeah.
But the rest of the record was great. Okay. You're thinking of the one after that.
Okay.
Summertime Girls. Yeah.
I thought that was off of In Rock We Trust.
No, I'm 100% sure.
I can be wrong from time to time. Oh, and I should mention W.A.S.P. releases their debut album, and
we had a mutual love for
my God,
that album.
W.A.S.P.
That was a great album.
Blackie Lawless, my idol, my hero. He's been my hero since the band came out in 1984. I got to see them, as I said, last year live. Awesome show. Armor Saint opened up. They were great.
Yeah.
They just announced yesterday that they're it's my son, guys. I'm sorry. That they're coming out. They're coming back to the U.S. with another big major tour. And this one's being called the 40th Never Stops. and they are again being opened up by Armor Saint. And they're coming to the Capitol Theater in Wheeling, West Virginia. I believe it's August 20 something. You could look it up. Go to waspnation.com for all the information. But, I mean, it just sounded awesome last time. I already got my tickets. Looking forward to going. Shout out to another mutual friend who wanted me to tell you hi, Lisa Poffenberger.
Wow. We haven't seen her in years.
Yeah, she's awesome. We talked today, and we not only have great tickets, but we have great seats, but we're getting the VIP experience.
Nice.
Where I get to sit down and chat with my idol, Blackie Lawless. I'm very excited about that.
That is cool.
Okay, so that's it for that. And I just wanted to mention that some of the notes of 1984, if I can find the stupid thing, because I got pages everywhere. Oh, here it is. Just a few things. Def Leppard's drummer, 1984, Rick Allen, loses his left arm in a car accident on December 31st of 1984. Crazy. Changed the band forever.
Yeah.
I mentioned a couple weeks ago when I was slamming Def Leppard that, and by the way, I got some hate mails for this, but I said when the drummer lost his arm, the band lost their soul. And I stand by that. I'll die on that hill because the band turned into a homogenized, synthetic, artificial, fake band that just, terrible. Pour Some Sugar on Me is an abomination. Should never have been released. That whole album is garbage. And they never recovered. And why should they?
Play that song all the time. I hear you play it all the time.
They probably sold more records, though, than they ever did.
That album alone, Hysteria, sold 20 million copies worldwide.
And I want to add something to what you said. Although I totally agree about their music, I saw them live. My wife loves them, and I took her to see them live recently. When the drummer came out with his one arm and waved after I watched him play all night, I teared up. Yeah. You got to really hand it to the guy. No pun intended there, Steve.
That was funny. That was the funniest line of the night. You got to hand it to the guy.
It's a long build up to that punchline, but I liked it.
Yeah, I like that. So, yeah, and then I accidentally said last time, too, but he single-handedly ruined the band. And I didn't mean to say that
That's
either.
terrible.
But anyway.
That is not funny.
It isn't. Also, Deep Purple reunites in 1984. Another tragedy here. Hanoi Rocks drummer Razzle was killed in an automobile accident in early December.
I remember that. Didn't Vince Neil have something to do with it?
The driver of the car is Vince Neil of Motley Crue. He was apparently reaching for a donut or a ding-dong or something. No, I don't know what happened. But, yeah, he was drinking. Drinking was involved. And on a serious note, yeah, terrible tragedy. Razzle, the drummer, died. Vince Neil, of course, didn't get a scratch on him, and he was sentenced to 30 days in jail for this.
Wow.
And he got out after 2 weeks for good behavior. And all he had to do was put together some PSAs about the dangers of drinking and driving. It was actually pretty sickening.
Strange.
But anyway, so there's that. And then, of course, we talked about This Is Spinal Tap. One of the most legendary mockumentaries about rock and roll was released. And that's good stuff. All right. So we went through year by year. We're only going to do a few more things. How long have we been talking there, sir?
We got about 15 more minutes.
Okay, cool. All right, so this is actually doing better than I thought we were. So let's talk. It's time to pick your brain there, Timm Reeves.
Okay.
And going to ask you some questions. We already talked about a lot of this stuff, but these are questions that not only I think would be interesting to people who are fans of this genre of music. We're talking early to mid 80s metal, but also I'm curious. We've had so many discussions about this stuff. And I'm curious to hear what you have to say about some of these. So,
okay.
And now some of these might challenge you, or some of them might surprise me by you going, got it, First one, better Black Sabbath singer, Ozzy or Dio?
Dio.
Okay. Ozzy fired in 1979 after a legendary career with the band.
Am I allowed to add things?
Sure, of course.
Dio is a better singer, but Ozzy was the ultimate singer for Black Sabbath.
Right.
Does that make any sense?
It absolutely makes sense. Dio, more talented. Ozzy, better defined Black Sabbath.
Yeah, yeah. And if you listen to Ozzy back in the day, The guy really was awesome.
Yeah.
He's a hell of a singer.
People might know him as the goofy guy.
They picture him now. You got
like the doddering grandpa.
when his hair was in his face and he was wearing fringe, and
he was scary, man. The band was scary.
It was just great.
Yeah. Next one, then. Who was better, Black Sabbath or Ozzy solo in the 80s? In the 80s, Black Sabbath the band or Ozzy solo?
Oh man!
And just to help you out here, in the 80s, Sabbath had Dio, Ian Gillan, Glenn Hughes, Ray Gillan, and Tony Martin. And they released Heaven and Hell, Mob Rules, Born Again, Seven Star, Headless Cross, Eternal Idol, and TYR, Tear.
Yeah.
Ozzy puts out Blizzard of Oz, Diary of a Madman, Bark at the Moon, The Ultimate Sin, No Rest for the Wicked. His guitar players included, of course, Randy Rhoads, Brad Gillis, Jake E. Lee, and Zakk Wylde. Who was a better band in the 80s?
I have to pick on that one. If I have to choose, I have to choose Black Sabbath.
Okay. Of those singers, take Dio out of the equation. Gillan, Glenn Hughes, Ray Gillan, Tony Martin. Who do you like the best?
Probably Glenn Hughes.
Great singer, man. And he still is, by the way. All right. Next one, and we're still in the Ozzy world here. Better 80s solo career, Ozzy or Dio?
Ozzy.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, we mentioned Ozzy's discography.
Yeah, Ozzy was larger than life.
Right.
Big.
And Dio put out in the 80s, Holy Diver.
Dio is larger than life with metal fans.
Right.
You know.
Right. Holy Diver, Last in Line, Sacred Heart, and Dream Evil. All good albums.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, Maiden, I think this one's easy, but a lot of people do debate this online. Iron Maiden, Paul Di'Anno or Bruce Dickinson?
Dickinson.
Easy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Although you can't discount that the self-titled album, the debut album, and Killers are both phenomenal records.
I think my friend Chuck would probably disagree with that.
Yeah.
I think he liked Paul Di'Anno. I think, if I remember.
Pretty
I know
sure
somebody.
Kevin Leitner, who's a huge Iron Maiden
Yeah.
fan, I know he has a lot of love for Paul Di'Anno. So, I don't know. That's interesting. Okay, better British band in the 80s, Judas Priest or Iron Maiden? Now, and while you're thinking about Maiden, 7 studio LPs, 1 live After Death, considered to be one of, if not the greatest live metal albums of all time, and a slew of legendary singles. Priest, 6 studio LPs, 1 live LP, and, of course, a slew of legendary singles. Sorry. Who's the better British band in the 80s, just in that decade?
That's definitely the hardest question of the night. There's no doubt. It's like asking me, which is better, the New York strip steak or pork chops on the grill.
Right,
I love them both so much.
Gun to your head, you got to pick one.
Man, I don't know. I mean, there's parts of each one of them that I think favor.
Mm-hmm.
Like, of course, Iron Maiden's got a better bass player.
Okay.
There's no doubt about that.
Who's better singer?
I think Iron Maiden has a better drummer.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so you really can pick that apart like that.
I think
as
so.
a musician,
Yeah.
I think that's interesting.
However, I think that Glenn Tipton from Priest and Adrian Smith from Maiden are how do I pick
Neck and neck,
They're
right?
neck and neck.
Yeah.
And then you got Downing and Murray, both just fantastic players. So
The ultimate one right here. Who's better, Halford or Bruce?
I like Halford better.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Halford's my favorite singer.
That surprises me that you answered
From all
that
time.
easy. Okay, cool.
Yeah, Halford. I gotta
Now, and then we also
Maiden or
talked
Priest?
recently about Maiden. It's interesting. Maiden never succumbed to the teasing hair, wearing spandex.
No.
Meanwhile, Priest unfortunately did put out Turbo Lover.
Yeah, somebody got to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, somebody got to him and talked him into a really stupid idea, I think.
So I would say, my opinion, Maiden in the 80s overall, but still, you can't discount what Priest brought to the table. But just because of that one little blemish for me. And I love the fact that after that, they went right back into the metal again.
I'm going to say Maiden too.
Okay.
And my reason is because I think my favorite Priest, other than Defenders of the Faith, is all in the late 70s. Stained Class.
Yeah.
I think Hellbent for Leather has another title to the album, doesn't it?
Well, there's a Rockarola that came out in the 70s, right?
That's amazing. Sin After Sin. Those are all 70s albums.
Yeah.
So
Victim Exchanges.
So I'm going to
Grace,
say 80s wise, Iron Maiden.
Okay. Better German band in the 80s. Scorpions, Accept, or Halloween? Now, before you answer that, this stunned me that in the 80s, 50 German metal bands put out albums.
Wow.
And I only know, I mean, I'm sure there are some others, but Scorpions, Accept, and Halloween. Scorpions put out 4 studio LPs, 1 live LP, the Worldwide Live, which was, wait, was that what it was called?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they've been around since 72, Accept, formed by Udo in 1968. I did not know that.
Wow.
They put out 7 albums in the 80s, including the anthem Balls to the Wall. Halloween was formed a little bit later, formed in 84, credited with being one of the first and most influential power metal bands. Phenomenal vocalist and Kai Hansen. They released 4 albums in the 80s, including the legendary Keeper of the 7 Keys, Parts 1 and 2. Had huge success overseas, moderate success with various singles in the United States. If you're picking a power metal band, or just a metal band, I should say, because best German band in the 80s, Scorpions, Accept, or Halloween? In the 80s.
I hate to sound cliche because it does sound cliche, but I got to say Scorpions.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, I think of that Animal Magnetism album and the Blackout album.
Yeah.
Just,
Which are 80s.
there's no weak spots.
Right.
Balls to the Wall is Accept's best album. I don't really like some of their other albums.
Yeah.
I've tried to like it as much.
Midnight Mover, I think they had a song. Metal Heart.
Yeah.
Halloween for me, just because I
love Halloween. I love all 3.
All right. But you pick Scorpions. Yeah. All right. Best musicians in early to mid 80s metal. Now, I know we could be here all day, but give me 3 names. Maybe 3 names that we haven't talked to yet.
Not singers, is that what you mean?
Yeah, just musicians.
In
the 80s. Now, they could be musicians that formed in the 70s, but they put out great stuff in the 80s.
Steve Harris.
Okay.
Iron Maiden's bass player.
Bass player for for Iron Maiden. Right?
That's one of them. Vinny Appice, the drummer that played with Dio and Sabbath.
Many other bands.
Yeah.
Right. He was a gun for hire for a while.
And
what about guitar player?
Guitar player. You know, when I think of 80s guitar, Adrian Vandenberg was my favorite.
All right, there we go.
He was my favorite.
Boy, that was not as hard as I thought it was going to be. Let's throw out some names, underrated early to mid 80s metal bands. I think we've done a pretty good job of discussing that.
You got Y&T, Vandenberg. Black and Blue I thought was underrated, to be honest.
With that.
Kicks.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I liked them before that big hit. You know what I mean? I liked them before that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. They put out 3 or 4 good albums.
Queensryche.
Very, yeah, underrated. I mean, of course, I think they exploded with Operation Mindcrime.
They did.
They put out some good stuff way before that. So, for me, we already talked about them. Metal Church,
Savatage.
Yeah. Metal Church. That album I talked about. It's going to be their 13th studio release. Savatage. They were formed in 1979 by the brothers John and Chris Oliver. They were called originally. Do you remember what they were called before they became Savatage? Avatar. But
Chris died in a drunk driving accident.
Yeah, he wasn't drunk. He was hit by a drunk driver.
Right. One of the greatest guitar players of the 80s.
I agree. He died in 1993 in a car crash, hit by a drunk driver, just after they released Edge of Thorns album.
Yeah.
And Tragedy, because that was just something that really impacted the band. But I do want to say, the one thing that you can say about Savatage more than anything else is, and I don't think a lot of people know this, but in addition to the fact that they've released 11 studio albums, 2 live, 4 compilations, and 3 EPs, the band quit in 2001. They released an album called Poets and Madmen, and then they disbanded after that. They reunited for one show for a huge festival called Wacken Open Air. Wacken. That sounds dirty. Wacken Open Air in 2015. The crowd went berserk, clamoring for more stuff. So the rumor is that there's a new album, a double album. It's going to be released sometime this year with as many of the original members they can find, and both John Oliver and Zach Stevens both singing. So that could be, and a tour. So that could be pretty awesome. And I did want to mention, have you ever heard of Trans-Siberian Orchestra?
Yes.
Have you ever seen them live?
No.
Have you ever seen them live?
No.
Amazing. I mean, I'm sure you know what they are, right?
They're,
the Christmas.
Yeah, I don't. What's the word? Like Christmas.
Okay.
Is that
You
wrong?
don't like Christmas?
No, I don't.
Okay.
It's winter. It's cold. It's expensive.
Well, the only reason why I'm bringing up TSO is because they've become huge and they've been around for a long time, and they're so big now that they actually have touring, two different tours, East Coast and West Coast, because they become so big they can't, and they sell out like everywhere they go. That TSO, all of it came out of Savatage.
Wow.
Paul O'Neill, who was a famous producer who passed away for all of Savatage's best albums, actually created the concept with John Oliver and other members of Savatage. And if you listen to TSO's music, you can hear it. But that's definitely that the TSO that everybody loves, the Christmas stuff, directly came out of that band. And that's it for that. Did want to mention real quick, you talked about the thrash attack. We can't talk about early to mid 80s metal without mentioning the significance of Metallica, Kill 'Em All, 1983, Slayers, we said. Anthrax releases Fistful of Metal in 1984. Megadeth's debut, Killing Is My Business, comes out in 85. Overkill's first album is Feel the Fire, their full-length album, 85. And Testament, another big name in the thrash.
They're good. I mean, I don't like them, but they're good.
And Alex Skolnick, great guitar player for Testament.
Really
but they were
good.
a little late in the game. They debuted in 1987.
My brother liked Testament and Slayer and some of the heavier stuff.
Right.
I never really. At that point in my life, I started going into the more into Elvis Costello,
Right.
John Mellencamp, things like that.
Cool. So that's that. And speaking of thrash, I wanted to ask your opinion on this. Metallica's first three albums, Kill 'Em All in 83, Ride the Lightning in 84, Master of Puppets in 86. Do you consider that in metal to be the first three albums in a band, like the trilogy, if you will? The band's first three albums. I don't know if I'm asking this question right. Can you think of another band, whether you like Metallica or not, you can't deny the fact that that's an amazing first three albums for a band.
Mm-hmm.
Kill 'Em All, Ride the Lightning, and Master of Puppets. Can you
Yes.
think of another metal band in that era that had three consecutive albums?
In that era?
Yeah.
I mean, we mentioned Maiden.
Maiden.
With Number of the Beast, Peace of Mind, and
Power Slave,
Slave.
right.
That's Dio, to me, Holy Divers, by far his best album.
Holy Diver, Last in Line.
Last in Line's really, really, really good.
and Sacred Heart.
Sacred Heart is just one good, and after that, I just feel like it started sounding repetitive. To me.
Okay.
And I was a huge Vivian Campbell fan. I was very upset when he fired Viv. Actually.
Right. Well, then he picked up a pretty decent guitar player, right?
great,
Craig Goldie.
yeah, always
right?
great. I saw him
it's not
live
the
with
same.
Goldie, and it wasn't the same.
Not the same.
I got a very interesting story about Metallica. I used to spend the night when I was 14, 15 years old at my buddy's house, Jeff Randolph. I think you know. I used to call him Zeke.
Yeah.
Okay. When we used to listen to the Friday Night Metal Mixer on California's local radio, and it would play late into the night, just nothing but metal.
Mm-hmm.
And they played For Whom the Bell Tolls. That's the first time, and I was going, what is this?
Off of Ride the Lightning, yeah.
I bought Ride the Lightning. I used to borrow Doach's guitar rig and do nothing but play Ride the Lightning on rhythm. Yeah, I learned every song on the album.
Mm-hmm.
I loved the album. Master of Puppets, same thing. I just absolutely loved it.
Mm-hmm.
This is weird.
Great production, by the way.
It is, but it's weird. By the time and Justice for All came out, I had totally lost interest in it.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I just, when I hear them, I change. I find something better, because there is something better on. A lot of people are going to think, "Oh, what an idiot!" I can't believe he said that just now. I just don't like Metallica.
Right.
I love the first couple Metallica albums, the first three.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, just pure raw
The ones
anger
you
and
named.
aggression.
Your Phone's going off.
Is it going off again? Guys, I apologize.
Kill
for
them
this.
all, Ride the Lightning, Master of Puppets. I love them. But after that, I just don't care.
Okay. Last thing about this, early 80s pre-hair bands. Now, we talked about Crew, Rat, Quiet Riot, Kiss, Twisted, Doc and Keel. Well, I guess we talked about all these. W.A.S.P, Kick-Axe, Lizzie Borden, Def Leppard, Bon Jovi, Whitesnake. They all put out decent stuff before the hairspray got a hold of them, right? And you could see a lot of these. I mean, early on, they were young, they were raw, they were just putting out good stuff that they knew at the time. And then before the machine, I guess, the corporate machine got a hold of them. But there were a lot of pre-hair bands that put out good stuff. And that's something that I've always admired that you admitted, because you're not a fan of a lot of the later stuff, because it became style over sound. And
Right.
Okay. Dude, that's it. That's all I got. Just wanted to make two quick announcements. I already mentioned the W.A.S.P. I got to ask you about this. So have you heard about the Power Trip Festival coming out in 2023?
No.
The Power Trip Festival. So I just heard about this. October 6th through 8th. It's a 3-day festival.
Is this in California?
Yeah, Indio, California.
Yes. I had a boss at the mine who is an Ozzy. He's such an Ozzy fanatic. He has like a giant tattoo of Ozzy on his leg.
Okay.
And it looks just like him. But he was just telling me he's going to this.
Yes.
He's flying out to California. He said Maiden's going to be there. And who?
So this is
Ozzy.
3 nights, and I'm probably going to get this wrong, but I'm pretty sure I heard GNR and Maiden.
Yeah, GNR. Yeah, he did say that.
Guns N' Roses and Maiden one night, AC/DC and Ozzy the second night, and then Metallica and Tool for the third night.
Wow.
So, but this is the crazy thing. So this is the first time it's ever happened that 6 major mega bands have been on the same festival like this, right? Check this out. For general admission, tickets start at $600 a piece. For general admission, they start,
Yeah.
right? And they have packages. VIP tickets start at $1,750.
You're seeing some really old bands though.
Yeah. And there's
Strange
not
to
even a
me.
guarantee that Ozzy's going to make it by then, because he's already announced.
I mean,
that he's
Malcolm
retiring
Young's
and everything
dead
else.
in AC/DC. I
Right.
mean, did they even? I didn't even know they
I don't
played.
even know.
I didn't even know they played anymore. Is Brian Johnson still singing?
I don't know. So
I thought Ozzy couldn't sing.
I was shocked about that. So more information, you can go to www.powertrip.live to find out how you can mortgage your house and your second born male child to see 6 bands. Wow, that sounds pretty steep. Anyway, and then the last thing I just found out about this too. There's a new streaming service called Thunderflix. So it's like Netflix, except it's all about 100% heavy metal. And this is interesting. So the cost is $6.66 a month. Yes, 666. And it's like Netflix. You get the different menus and the different categories. But it's live performances, documentaries, behind-the-scenes footage, and official content from various metal artists. And it's growing more and more, they say, every week. Right now, you can see documentaries and live concerts from bands such as Ozzy, Sabbath, Metallica, Motley, Scorps, and so many more. Thought it was pretty cool. What you thought about that?
Yeah, that is. I mean, I like it.
Yeah.
I can't wait to look into it.
$6.66 a
Yeah,
month. Pretty cool.
That's interesting.
So visit www.thunderflix.com for more information about that. Guys, before I wrap this up, I just wanted to say, how long has it been, by the way? Did we do it all right?
Just a little bit over an hour. We're good.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything you wanted to add before we wrap this up about metal?
I just want to tell you personally. First of all, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I just left the coal mine and came here. I'm just a regular guy, but I appreciate that you appreciate my opinion.
Oh, absolutely.
Because we used to talk about this stuff till daylight at Yum Yum Donuts.
Yum Yum Donuts.
Drinking coffee, and every once in a while would scrounge up enough change out of the ashtray to buy a donut, or get somebody to buy us one. But I wanted to tell you that I know you think I hate Motley Crue.
Well, I hate them now, so go ahead.
I loved Shout at the Devil.
I know.
And
We talked about
I've
that.
always said, and I stand by it, that Mick Mars was the most talented member of the band.
Absolutely. You've always said that.
And now look
Yeah, I was going to ask you. Are you hearing about this lawsuit?
I
This
am.
is crazy.
It's unbelievable. To
in
me.
addition to everything that they.
I mean, here's the best guy in the band.
Yeah.
To me, he made that band
Absolutely.
what it was. And
the big
a
controversy
lawsuit?
out of a lawsuit is real quick is that on the last big stadium tour that Motley Crue performed in Pittsburgh, and I went to the band, the show, the entire tour, every night they played, none of them played any actual instruments.
Really?
That everything was pre-recorded, and he said that there's videos out there where you can see where the drummer, Tommy Lee's not drumming, and you hear drums, and Nicky's going like this, clapping his hands, and you hear the bass. He said he was the only guy that actually played his guitar.
wow.
And Vince Neil, of course, he did sing, and I said, well, thank God, because if they pre-recorded how bad he sounded, I mean,
You were there.
I was there. What was that? Oh. So anyway.
Motorcycle.
But yeah, so it's crazy. And then sometime soon, maybe I'll bring you back. I'd like to bring a panel back. There's a big debate going on right now about 80s metal bands, rock bands. They're still touring, but it's all about backing tracks and pre-recorded bits and this and that. Kiss, they're saying, is flat out not playing at all.
Oh yeah, tons of it.
It's all W.A.S.P, who I love dearly. Saw him last year. I'm getting ready to see him again. There's a lot of speculation that Blackie ain't singing. I will say at the last concert that if you close your eyes, it sounds exactly like the record, every song. And I'm like, it's too good, man.
Yeah.
And Motley Crue, of course, there's a lot of his stuff. So I'd like to get your
When
opinion
Def
on that.
Leppard did Photograph, they did it last, I think. I think it was their encore last song of the night. I looked at Linda, my wife, and I said, there's no way he's singing.
No.
It just was too perfectly
He
loud.
can't sing.
No,
It's
there's
terrible.
There's
So,
no way.
so I don't know how you feel about that, but maybe that's for another time. Ben, Tim, thanks. I also want to do one more shout out for our sponsor, Apex Giant, www.apexgiant.com. Awesome products that they sell for hikers and backpackers and for average Joes like me and you, including the minimalist wallet. Good stuff. Check it out. All their products are made in the USA. They got great warranties on them. You got to check them out, www.apexgiant.com, and we thank them for their sponsorship. Tim, I got to do a handshake once again. Really appreciate you being here.
My pleasure, buddy.
Promise me you'll come back.
I will.
Because
I
we
will.
got so many other topics to talk about,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah,
all
we
right?
do.
And I want to thank Ben once again for being the guy that makes this all happen.
No dad joke this week? You've been saying a stupid ass joke every single
Yeah,
week.
that's true. But you know what? I
I
didn't
was-
really think about this.
I was prepared to turn my headphones off when you told the joke. Go ahead.
Let me see if I can pull one out of my head here. Okay, I got one. I think so. So, a guy says to another guy, so I got a rabbit that's dyslexic. And the weirdest thing is, he loves to run on the treadmill. And the other guy goes, dyslexic rabbit that loves to run on a treadmill? I got to be honest, that's a fit bunny.
Oh my God, that's so bad. Oh,
And on that note, we're out.
Yeah, I
Once
think-
again, thanks everybody for listening. Episode 4. If you like the show, if you hate the show, whatever, leave comments on the YouTube. We'll be back next week with some more fun stuff. I think next week's going to be all about cheesy 80s horror films. It's going to be awesome. Thanks for listening. Tim, thanks again. Ben, thanks again.
Thank you.
Good night.